got some good news for you. Hey, everybody, gather near. The doctor's in the house, so lend him your ear. The things he can say might even make your day. He might even help your pain go away. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. I'm sure he can tell you just what to do. The doctor is in the house. Doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the doctor is in the house. This is Dr. Ron, host of Dr. Ron, Unfiltered, Uncensored, coming to you with episode number 458. And we'll be talking about coffee today. But I do want to welcome everybody with an attitude of gratitude. And I want to thank you for listening to this podcast. I want to thank all those that liked the wireless headphones last week. I now know that a lot of you did not know that there was an electromagnetic field going through your brain when you use those. But now you know. So that's one thing to know. But there has to be action. Okay? I mean, it's great to have a lot of knowledge, but you have to act on that knowledge. I want to thank all of our new listeners that have been contacting me, especially in Southwest Florida. So we're just going to continue on with our just health tips. I was going to talk to you today, if you remember, about thyroid and if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was expecting a guest, but that couldn't happen today, so we'll delay that one. And I am expecting another guest to give me a date. When we'll talk about epigenetics, where your outcome is not determined by your genes, and how lifestyle can affect your genes and change maybe 92% of them, according to this physician. So is coffee good or bad? Well, mainly good. And that's some bad. There's some benefits, there's some risks. But I'm going to start out with a story. It's about alcohol and coffee and how it may help you to live past 90. Emily Bennett of Hastings, Michigan has become known as the Mitten Beer Girl after visiting all of Michigan's 323 breweries. And they found that those who drink moderate amounts of beer or wine along with 2 cups of coffee increase their chances to live a long life. You're listening now. So skipping down, they come to a study out of the University of California, Irvine, that revealed the consumption of moderate amounts of alcohol and coffee is linked to living a longer life. No joke here. But did you hear the whole sentence? The key word there is moderate. The study was called 90 Plus. It started in 2003, and it examined the oldest of the old age group, about 1,700 nonagenarians, to determine what is the key to living to your 90th birthday and beyond. And they found, among other things, that people who drank moderate, there's the key word again, moderate amounts of alcohol and coffee live longer than those who abstain. And that, quote, people who were overweight in their 70s live longer than normal or underweight people did, unquote. Dr. Kawas had no explanation for it. And she was a key researcher in that study. All right, she said, quote, I have no explanation for it, but I do firmly believe that modest drinking improves longevity. The research found that subjects who drank 2 glasses of beer or wine every day decreased their chances of a premature death by 18%, and those who drank 2 cups of coffee a day decreased their chance of dying by 10%. Now, I know that all sounds great. I wanted to get your attention. But, there's good news and bad news. Well, that's the good news. The bad news is you still have to exercise, because they also found regular exercise, keeping busy, having a hobby were also key to living a longer life. But don't be afraid to have that cup of coffee. So a few years back, we had Dr. Ralph Moss on the program, and he is a researcher in cancer. He originally was with the Sloan Kettering Institute, and he travels all over the world checking out different cancer treatments. He wrote a blog a couple years back. He talked about coffee. Coffee as being a healthful habit that prevents some kind of cancer. And he specifically stated that an Italian-style coffee may prevent cancer of the prostate gland. And we're not going to go into what general rule that most writers focus on, like the inability to sleep properly, get nervous, and that the coffee can interfere with opioids and other medications. That it can affect stomach and so forth. This article was mainly about the benefits of coffee. So here's what he bullet pointed. High coffee intake reduced the risk of liver cancer by 50%. In fact, each additional cup reduced the risk by 15% and also decreased the risk of cirrhosis of the liver. For some cancers, both caffeinated and decaffeinated coffee were equally effective. Coffee prevents cancer of the endometrium. That's the lining of the uterus. Regular decaffeinated coffee use is associated with lower rectal cancer. Localized but not advanced prostate cancer is also reduced by regular coffee consumption. And this came up in a few of the studies I researched for this program today. The risk of melanoma was also reduced in 20% through regular coffee consumption. There's a cancer textbook out called DVita, and in the 2019 edition, it admits this. And it suggests that coffee exerts its beneficial effects by reducing the availability of blood glucose to the cancer cells. So that's why a lot of cancer clinics recommend a keto diet, a low carbohydrate or ketogenic diet. One other point in this paragraph was that if you're going to drink decaffeinated coffee, make sure you use only Swiss or carbon dioxide processed organic coffee, never chemically decaffeinated products. And then again, you have all these petrochemicals that negates all the effect of the natural compounds that are in coffee. Because there are a lot of natural compounds in that Java. These include caffesterol that prevents cancer in various lab studies. And importantly, caffeine and its opposite number in tea, theobromine, enhance the effects of chemotherapy against some cancer cells. Now, what's the cappuccino connection and prostate cancer? The Japanese scientist wrote in 2018, coffee inhibits the progression of prostate cancer. However, the direct mechanism through which coffee acts on the prostatic cancer cells remains unclear. So, Italy is not among the top 10 coffee consuming countries, although as you travel through Italy, everybody's having their espresso or cappuccino. The average Italian consumes half as much as the world leader, which is Finland. Okay, so Italians don't drink as much, but it's part of their lifestyle. Italian coffee, it has its espresso, cappuccino, macchiato, cafe latte. They have all kinds in Italy, right? So in 2017, they studied men who drank Italian-style coffee. Coffee made with hot water under high pressure or with boiling water, as in a mocha. For those who drank 1 or 2 cups per day, there was only a slight decrease in prostate cancer overall. But when they studied men who consumed 3 or more cups per day, they found that coffee prevents cancer of the prostate. And it's a big number, 64% reduction. And then they looked at the other risk factors like smoking, age, body mass index, which means if they're obese. And when there was still a 53% decrease in prostate cancer. In a statistical sense, that's very significant. So it does seem that coffee prevents cancer of the prostate gland in a great many people. So what's different about Italian style coffee than American coffee or other countries? Well, espresso is a lot stronger, 5 to 8 times as concentrated as American drip coffee. And the Italian style coffee is made unfiltered. As a result, it contains more beneficial natural compounds that are removed from the filtered brews. The part of the ground coffee that does not overcome the filtration process includes significant amounts of different dietary compounds. So, prostate cancer and coffee. Unfiltered coffee and heart attacks, a good association. There's a small study out of Holland, but it showed a decrease in heart attacks. Coffee did not raise the average level of heart attack rates. And Italy is not a place where you have a heart attack epidemic. The WHO shows the exact opposite. Among the nations of the earth, Italy's heart death rate is near the bottom of the chart, 163 exactly. So why is that? There's another country called Belarus. They drink about 1/10 as much coffee as the Italians. They have a heart attack death rate 5 times higher than Italy. So that's from Dr. Ralph Moss. And just keep in mind, it's not so bad to have your coffee. I guess this might be a good time to interject something about how you drink, what kind of cup you use, because this would really interest me, about how you take your coffee. It didn't start out. During. It didn't start out, but during the Spanish flu era, everybody was obsessed with cleanliness, as they were during this Chinese epidemic. So they had paper cups, but they were really just made out of paper. But the kind you get today are coated with plastic. Now that plastic coating helps keep the hot coffee from soaking through the paper and leaking out, right? But it also can contaminate your drink. A study out of India revealed 10.2 billion tiny particles of microplastics were found in disposable cups of hot water after just 15 minutes of exposure. Microplastics, the stuff that they're finding in the lungs of people who wore the surgical mask 24 hours a day. Microplastics that most fish have in their flesh from swimming in water that's contaminated with the microplastics from all the waste of the plastics, including the masks. I think that's pretty startling, and that's what the authors found too. They found it startling to say. And they weren't just talking about plasticizer compounds, the kind we've talked about on this program, the endocrine disruptors that make men less men because of the estrogen effect, but also toxic heavy metals, cadmium and lead to be specific. And they also found that the milk in the coffee allows even more of the plastic to get into it. And some of those plastic toxics are fat soluble. So What does that mean? Milk has fat in it. Then the fat draws out these toxins out of these plastic cups, these plastic coated cups. And the hotter the coffee, the greater amount of the plastic that leaches into it. So I guess one takeaway from that is don't microwave your disposable coffee cup. So just because these cups are out there doesn't mean they're safe. But enjoy it from something other than a plastic container. Use a ceramic coffee mug. That's your best option. Or those double-wall glass coffee cups. So again, nobody's saying that coffee is bad, but just be careful how you drink it. So what else do we have? We have so much on coffee. I couldn't believe it myself, ladies and gentlemen. So what are some of the benefits? What is some of the good news? There's some great news that came out of Korea. Drinking between 1 and 5 cups of coffee every day is good for your arteries. And they determined this by doing calcium ratios. Calcium deposits in the arteries cause a blockage. They were at their lowest level in those who drank between 3 and 5 cups of coffee a day. 1 to 3 cups a day was the next best ratio. Individuals who drank less than 1 cup a day had the highest ratios of calcium. And there's other reports about this. And there's reports about drinking 3 to 5 cups a day of coffee reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes. And as I said, it may prevent melanoma, which is, everybody knows, a dangerous form of skin cancer. There's only one study, and again, this is an observational study, does not prove causation, but this study was released in February. It proved that coffee intake of 4 to 6 cups a day reduced the risk of getting multiple sclerosis. And they defined a cup as 5 to 8 ounces. And they used black coffee, not the kind you get at Starbucks with all the whatever. I don't go there, so I know they're huge cups with lots of ingredients. But this study was done using black coffee. So that's something good, right? Prevent some cancers, especially melanoma, decreasing your risk of type 2 diabetes, maybe Parkinson's disease, because studies have found that caffeinated coffee drinkers tend to have a lower risk of developing Parkinson's disease. One study found the average coffee drinkers had a 27% lower risk of Parkinson's disease, no matter even if they have the gene for Parkinson's disease. Coffee might be good for your liver. Dr. Moss already said that. And some of the other benefits could be possibly reducing stroke. I hate to tell you that because these are observational studies, but I mean, some of these are fairly large number of people. We know it's not bad for your heart, and we know it may reduce risk of cancer. And it may reduce your risk of death. How's that? It might be good for longevity. And this was from the Annals of Internal Medicine that focused on the association between coffee intake and reduced risk of dying. So what did they show? The main findings were, compared with those who did not consume coffee, consumers of various amounts of unsweetened coffee had lower risks of all-cause mortality. Unsweetened coffee led to a 16 to 20% lower risk of dying during the 7-year follow-up period that they observed these people. those who had used sweeteners did okay, but not as good as the black coffee drinkers. So the bottom line of all that is moderate consumption of unsweetened and sugar-sweetened coffee were associated with lower risk of death. So this doesn't mean to go overboard. Remember, right from the beginning, I said moderation was the key word. And caffeine has a half-life of around 6 hours. So, if you drink a cup of coffee at 12, by 5 o'clock, half of the caffeine is gone. And, you still have some left until about 8 o'clock at night. But again, use coffee as part of a healthy diet. Okay. Just, you still have to exercise. Like I said, it's good news and bad news. You still have to exercise. And, it may protect our health. Isn't that an interesting observation? The health benefit of coffee is its potential to preserve our cognitive function. We already know it may prevent Parkinson's disease, a neurodegenerative disease. One study examined the impact of caffeine consumption on the risk of developing Alzheimer's. The results found that caffeine intake was associated with significantly lower risk for Alzheimer's disease. And we have to do more research, but again, in moderation, it can also boost your energy and focus. Give that short-term boost to cognitive function. I don't know. When I was in college and graduate school, we always used coffee as a boost. It may actually, we need more work on this, but it may actually boost your metabolism to the fact that you start burning fat, and it may potentially be a weight loss aid. I mean, they've had the studies. They can prove that caffeine boosts your metabolic rate. But you can't drink it loaded with sugar, cream, and other additives. Again, moderate amount of coffee with a healthy diet and exercise, coffee can give a welcome boost to your metabolism. And you don't want to take coffee at night, huh? Because it could contribute to insomnia. I mean, it's a great drug. Caffeine is a drug, and it is not addictive in the same way other drugs are, but it can keep you up at night. Again, I keep coming back. Moderation. If you want a number, if you're a numbers person, about 500 milligrams a day of caffeine, that's about 5 cups, say 100 milligrams a cup. That's a little bit more in moderation, but that's what some of the experts are saying. Don't load it up with sugar. Drink good quality coffee. And don't forget, water can also give you a boost. We're sort of all dehydrated. Now, just not lastly, but in July 23rd of 2020, the New England Journal of Medicine published a study, Coffee, Caffeine, and Health. And in the write-up today, I have a quote from that. They concluded a large body of evidence suggests that the consumption of caffeinated coffee, the main source of caffeine intake in adults in the United States, does not increase the risk of cardiovascular disease and cancers, period. In fact, consumption of 3 to 5 standard cups of coffee daily has been consistently associated with a reduced risk of several chronic diseases. New England Journal of Medicine, if you want to look it up. Okay. July 23rd, 2020. Again, I'm not saying this is a cure-all. In moderation, along with a good lifestyle. socialization. And I can't leave this coffee story without telling you that one other benefit from coffee that I know many of my elderly friends enjoy every day. It makes you go to the bathroom because your colonic activity increases quickly after a cup of coffee. Who doesn't know that? Usually within 4 minutes, and it can last up to 30 minutes. So it's a colonic stimulant. That gets a lot of us going in the mornings. 7 out of 10 Americans drink this every day. So coffee is good for your heart, your diabetes, cancer, your liver, and your colon. What a way to end a podcast. But remember, it may help in weight loss. And the reason is not only increased metabolic effects, but it may increase the amount of brown fat, the beneficial form of fat that generates heat and burns sugar and fats through the mitochondria. The mitochondria are the workhorses, they're the energy of all our cells. So there are health benefits to coffee, documented and published results in the literature. The thing that we have to consider, and I know during these bad times economically, coffee is a really heavily pesticide sprayed crop. So if you can afford it, and even if you have to do half and half of some organic coffee that's grown in the shade, if you can afford it, and try and drink it black, and try not to add any sugar, milk, or cream. You can use the keto coffee as we do at our home, putting in coconut oil, which is a medium chain triglyceride oil. That's not too bad, because the coconut oil also improves mitochondrial function. Well, that's my little say on coffee, and thank you for listening and your comments. I appreciate that. So this program will air again at 4 p.m. today. Next week, I'm going to hopefully have a really great guest that has been on the program many times before, Dr. Russell Jaffe, because I really want him to expound on genetics and how 92% of your genes can be changed by lifestyle. And he's the one that, he came up with these blood tests that we all get, but how to interpret them and how to change them, how you can affect change in your blood work by lifestyle modifications. So this is Dr. Ron. Been your host for Dr. Ron Unfiltered, Uncensored for a little over 6 years now. The show is on Bean, but it's also on Podpage, on Spotify, Cast FM, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, iTunes. So just Dr. Ron Unfiltered, Uncensored. And we'll keep the podcast in this range, a little bit short. And next week, if we don't have Dr. Jaffe, I will talk about your thyroid, and again, not only how to test for it, but also some of the things that can attack your thyroid that you may be eating. There are many foods that are called goitrogens. Okay, and they can really slow up your thyroid. You may be doing everything right, but you might be eating a lot of kale, broccoli, cabbage, etc. And they might be competing with your medications. And I guess I should say one other thing, because I did have some notes about this. A lot of people are drinking the greens. You get all your vegetables and you drink them from a green drink. But we got to be careful. And we'll talk about this when we talk about thyroid. Some of the brands of greens are loaded with goitrogens. And they could have really bad consequences for your thyroid. You'll be getting a lot of benefits from the other superfoods, but the ones that are in these greens could be doing havoc with your thyroid. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll let Freddie take us home.
Hey everybody, Dr. Ron's finished for the day. I hope you got some good wisdom for what the man had to say. If it's all about good health, he's the man you got to see. He has a lot more answers for you. So tune in next week when the doctor is in the house. Or when the doctor is in the house. And let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. I'm sure he can tell you just what to do. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is in the house. So if you have a pain